Hello everyone, I'm your host Joseph J. McAllister, and welcome to The Thinning Veil. Well, thanks to the coronavirus outbreak, instead of doing something productive with my life, I thought I'd just sit here and make some videos. So today I decided that I would tell you my most scariest encounter with the paranormal. Okay, so back in 2007, I was working for an all-military run security company. And these guys were hardcore. Like, if they told you to do something, they expected you to do it, and that was it, or they were going to get in your face, and they couldn't even, it would just blow their mind if somebody just didn't do absolutely everything they say without question. Well, so anyways, I was working as a rover for this company, and they had me on this shift where I would drive 69 miles to work and 69 miles back in my personal car and use up all that gas, and then also, I was working 18-and-a-half-hour shifts every single day, 7 days a week for 4 months while I was there. No days off ever. And in between those shifts, the second my head hit the pillow, I would get about 4 hours sleep. And the worst thing is that the second my head hit the pillow, all of a sudden they'd be ringing my phone and barking at me and yelling at me that I have to go to guard a site somewhere that, for 4 hours in between my two 18-and-a-half-hour shifts, I was supposed to go to work for another 4 hours. I was like, and this happened a lot. And I was like, I'd tell them, you know what, I just got home. I'm exhausted. I mean, when do you think that I'm supposed to sleep? And I guess the answer was never. That was my problem. And so anyways, like one supervisor would get on the phone and they'd start yelling at me, and I'd tell them no way, and I'd hang up on them. And then all of a sudden another supervisor would get on the phone that's higher up the chain, like the head supervisor. I'd tell him, no, I'm not going to work. Are you flipping crazy? I just got off this long shift. And then all of a sudden, like, the branch manager would be on the phone yelling at me. And eventually I just go fine, and I'd no sleep. I'd just get in the car and I'd go drive into another shift, and then from there I'd drive to my 18-and-a-half-hour shift. And I don't know, like, what the heck they thought they were doing, but, I ended up doing it anyways, so who knows. So this site I was working was for Southern California Edison, which was basically a power substation in the middle of the desert out in Thousand Palms. And that's out by the Agua Caliente Casino, and it's like pretty out there in the middle of nowhere. And out there they have all these windmills, like hundreds of windmills everywhere. It's really crazy to see, actually. But it's because from Palm Springs all the way to Riverside through this sort of like canyon of mountains, there's like a strong wind pretty much all year round. And in the summer, we call it the Santa Anas because it really comes through and it blows into Riverside area and Moreno Valley and Riverside and Paris area of California. And so there's a lot of wind out there to harness for energy. And it's all, as I was saying, it's all blowing through this desert, and it's like just all sand everywhere. So anyways, the substation that I was at that collected all the energy from this windmills, basically I would drive way out into about halfway to Palm Springs, and then like I would turn and go way out into the desert in the middle of nowhere where there's this substation. And the substation itself was like just this plot of dirt, like sand, and it was a large area, and then it had like 8-foot barbed wire fences all the way around it. And then it also had, it had a tree line across the front, and the tree line was supposed to hide the site from the public because, you know, it was kind of like ugly, a bunch of transformers and stuff like that. And so there's some kind of deal with the city that they're supposed to kind of disguise these sites and people aren't supposed to see them. Anyways, on the site there was like some trailers, and then there was like, you know, like some vehicles and let's see, transformers and things like that, all kinds of power generator things that I don't really know anything about, but and sometimes at night this other security firm would come over and they'd check some kind of, like, I don't know what it was, maybe some kind of electrical equipment next door, maybe for Southern California Edison or some other company. I don't know what was going on there, but I would see them drive around the place and they do these little detect buttons where you take this little wand and you like touch these little magnetic buttons and it registers on the thing. And then sometimes the police would park out front, and like every once in a while I'd see like a flash of lights, and then I'd go down there and it end up being the police. But aside from that, I was pretty much in the middle of nowhere all by myself all night long. And the crazy thing was this, like I always thought, well, if I needed to call the police or an ambulance or my security company to come check on me or something like that, I mean, I was so far out they would take somebody an hour to get to me. So I was like, you know, it was just me out there, and if things went south, that was my problem, you know what I mean? So now the weird thing about this site is basically we just park in the driveway in front of the site, and there wasn't any kind of lights on the site, and there wasn't any lights along the road for miles, and it was so dark out there in the desert that, you know, like when you really get out away from the city, it can be so dark that you can't see your hand in front of your face, like literally you can't. And that seems really strange because like people are rarely in that kind of situation even at night. There's always the glow of the city lights going off the clouds and you can see everything, even in the pitch of night or whatever. But you get out in some of these desolate places and you can't see anything. There's like real darkness out there. So one night I got out of the vehicle, you know, in the dark, and I thought, oh, I'll just walk like 5 feet and, you know, relieve myself in the bushes or whatever, you know. And so, you know, I did my business, and I turned around, and all of a sudden I realized, even though I was like only 5 feet from my car, I couldn't see my car. And I was like, I thought, oh my heck, you know, I could be out here wandering all night long in the dark and have no idea how to even just find my own vehicle, you know, because you couldn't see anything. And it was like having your eyes closed, you know. And so like luckily, and two, you know, when I turned around, I wasn't sure if I turned around like completely square, and so I thought, oh, okay, I'm gonna start walking like this, you know, in the dark, and hopefully I'll bump into my car. And luckily that's what happened. I was like, my car's pretty broad, so I got a good shot, you know, with 5 feet, but I was pretty panicked, right? So after that, I never got out of the car without a flashlight because that was crazy. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you about how things started getting weird out there. You know, things went south after a while. You know, I was out there for like 4 months. And, yeah, things started getting really weird. Like one night, I was sitting there and, you know, okay, now you're going to hear this a lot. I was drinking coffee and I was listening to Coast to Coast on the radio because that's pretty much all I did every night out there, you know, probably all night long. Just drink coffee, you know, occasionally I change it up with a sandwich, but I mean, that's all I was doing, you know. So I'm sitting there, pretty much in the dark, you know, but I got my vehicle kind of like, you know, the lights on the dash, you know, to keep the power on, and you know, the radio dial kind of giving a little bit of light into the car. And I'm sitting there staring out the window, just basically at this road, but I can't even see it. It's just in the darkness, you know. And so I'm drinking this coffee, and I look down all of a sudden, and I see right where the shifter is, right? You know, so right down here next to me, there's a green glowing kind of like semi-transparent head of a man, like this person, and he's looking up around the car like this and looking at me and looking all around like this all through the car. And he's like right there. He's like half coming up through the bottom of the car or something. And he's just like looking around at me, and I was like, wow, I was like freaked out. I was like, what the heck is this? This is like, I was like, man, and somehow, I decided to convince myself this, well, I can't leave. What am I going to tell my supervisors? I seen a ghost. I'm running for my life, So I don't know what to do. I guess I'm just stuck here, right? And, which would be the reoccurring theme for this whole thing is I'm stuck here and I don't know how to get out of this, without quitting my job. And for like kind of a stupid reason, like go into these military guys, like I was saying, and be like, you know what, like I seen a bunch of ghosts out there and like I'm not going back. Like how do you think those people would have taken that, right? So I'm like thinking there's nothing I can do. I just gotta keep coming here, or just flat out tell them I quit and I just don't want to work here or something. So I needed the money, and I just kind of put up with it. I convinced myself, right? I said, this is a hallucination. I'm just tripping, right? So another day, I was sitting out in the dark again, right? And it may be like a week later or something. And I'm drinking the coffee and I'm looking out the front window and I'm listening to Coast to Coast. And so I'm sitting there and like all of a sudden like blam, like against the window, I look over and there's this close to my face, there's a black lab, like a huge black Labrador dog, staring in the window with his face pressed up against the window. And he's like right next to my head, because it's a car. So like I look over and just about have a heart attack, right? I'm just like, and like, wow, it scared the crud out of me. My heart just blew up out of my chest, All of a sudden, you're sitting in the dark for hours on end, and all of a sudden that happens, So I'm like, oh shoot, it's just a dog. And then I noticed that every time there was the black lab, real big dog, and another real big dog that was is a Dalmatian. And then they would start sniffing on the ground, and I'd roll down the window. I'd be, oh, hey, here, puppy, here, puppy, come here, buddy, come here, And like they're sniffing all around on the ground, and then they'll get further and further out into the darkness, and pretty soon they'd be gone. And I couldn't figure out where they'd gone to or how they got in. Of course, at this point I was still on the outside. But yeah, so I don't know, like these dogs kept coming in. And the second time I seen these dogs, like at this point we'd finally convinced them to turn on a light. So there was one light in the center of this site, and it just shined down and made like a circle. And it just seemed to not produce any more light than that. Like the light didn't go outwards and illuminate anything much. It was just like one cone of light that come down in the center of this whole place. So we just park under that light, So now we're inside, and we got this 8-foot barbed wire fence all around us. And out beyond the fence is just sand for miles. So one day I'm sitting there, again, drinking the coffee, listening to the radio, and all of a sudden, bam! I look over and it's that stupid dog again. I just about have a heart attack. This happened like another 3 times. And then I go, I was kind of getting used to it. And I go, okay. I was trying to get these dogs to be my friends because I was like, if I give them like some lunch meat or something, maybe they'll hang out and it won't be so creepy out here. So I was all, here, puppies. And they'd wander off sniffing the ground, and eventually they get further and further out, and I couldn't see them anymore, and I guess they went under the fence and left or something. So one day I'm sitting there, and this is when it gets really messed up, right? I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, blam, on the window, right? Another night, this is another night, and I look over, and this time it's the Dalmatian dog. But the weird thing is that this dog is now the size of a Great Dane. And so it's like, I thought it was like some other dog, right? And the half of it, the front half, right, was a Dalmatian, just regular white with black spots, spotted Dalmatian. The back half was a black lab, right? Now here's what's really messed up, right? So this dog is unusually big for those breeds. It was like Great Dane size, and I thought it was really strange, but I thought it was just another dog, you know. And so I rolled down the window again. I'm all, here puppy, puppy, here puppy, come here puppy, and the dog's all like going around sniffing on the ground, just like it's like the same weird routine over and over, and it's sniffing around on the ground, and I'm watching it for like maybe 30 seconds, so it's kind of a long time, right? And pretty soon I start noticing, I'm like, you know what? It's like I can see through this dog, like the ground behind it. And I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, what the heck? And this is so real to me. I'm just like, what the heck is this? I'm looking at it, and now I'm starting to see through it, and just very, very, very slowly I could see through it more and more. And then pretty soon it's about maybe like 50% transparent, and I'm like rolling up the window, and I'm like, oh my heck, bad dog, bad dog. I was like, no way, bad doggy. And I was like, just looking at it, it just kept getting more and more transparent until like I'm going around on the ground real fast sniffing. And then pretty soon I just couldn't see it anymore. And then I was like, oh, this is not good. You know what I mean? I was freaked out. I was like, this is really bad. I drove over by the gate. I was like pacing around. I was like, I opened the gate, and I was like, oh my heck, I gotta like drive out of here, and like I gotta leave. I can't just be here. This is crazy, right? But I was like, if I leave, I'm gonna have to quit my job. So I was like, geez, I don't know what to do. I was just like freaked out, and I thought, I don't know what to do. So I just sat up all night, like pacing around and just being like freaked out and hiding in the car, just being like, and like, I don't know, I really didn't want to go back after that, but I kept going back, and I was like really freaked out about this site after that. I think I had seen enough. So anyways, I went back, and sure enough, like I just kept going back to that stupid job, and I needed the money, and I don't know, I'm not the type to just up and quit a job. So I kept going back, and I was getting a lot of stress at this point. I was really freaking out. I was really stressed out about being there. I didn't like being there at all. And so anyways, like one day I'm sitting there, and this is when it got like really, really, really bad. It was like the worst thing I've ever seen, I think. I'm sure it is, actually. It was pretty awful. So I was sitting there again, drinking some coffee. I think this time I was having a sandwich, and I was listening to radio. And all of a sudden I look up, and I'm sitting in the middle of this site, and I'm like a good long ways from the barbed wire fence, like down this little road going through this place. And all of a sudden I look up, and I see this guy, and he's walking towards me, and he's like a good ways away, but he's walking straight towards the car. And this is a big place. He can't like be walking like over there or over there. He was walking straight towards me, right? And he's got his hands in his pocket and his head down like this. And he's got a hoodie on. And he's got a white, like a white hoodie with a white hood. And he's got blue jeans, and then he's got like some white tennis shoes on. And he's got his head down like this, and his hands in his pockets. And I think, oh my heck, this guy, as soon as he gets up to the car, he's going to suddenly, out of nowhere, just pull a gun. And then he's going to like he's going to be demanding that like, like I put on some handcuffs or something, and I'm going to be tied up. And that, if I comply with this, the next thing I know, they'll be finding my body out there. I'll be dead, right? So I'm like, no way in heck am I sticking around for this guy? You know, because I thought this probably be the last thing I did, right? So I come up with this plan real quick. That I'm going to turn on the car at the last second and the lights as fast as I can, and I'm just going to floor it down to the gate with bullets flying at me, right? This is going to be bad, right? And I'm going to jump out real quick. I'm going to unlock the gate, which is a big pain with this key and all this stuff. Throw it open, and then I'm going to get in the car and like drive out of there as fast as I can with him running and like shooting at me, and I don't know. But it, you know, that's my plan. I'm going to go with it, right? So I'm totally convinced this is a real person. Absolutely, right? I mean, like, what else would it be, right? So this guy's walking and walking and walking, and it's a good 30 seconds for him to walk to me. And finally, he's right in front of the car. And all of a sudden, I flip on the car and the lights at the same time, and I'm ready to floor it, and all of a sudden, he was gone. Like, he just didn't exist anymore. And that freaked me out really bad. I just was like, I would have rather it been a guy with a gun, you know? So anyways, one day after that, I was working this, you know, like 18.5-hour shift, and then I had to go to another one. In between it, they made me go to a 4-hour shift. And, you know, like, at the end of that shift, like, this guy comes out. I'm waiting for him to come in because I want to ask him some questions, you know. And I say, you know what, like, are you working like 80 hours a week and you don't have any days off? And he's like, no, I'm just working 40. And I'm like, you know anybody else that's working like that many hours? And he's like, no, everybody's just working 40. My brother's working 40. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, you know, like, I'm working 80 hours a week. I can't get a day off. They won't let me have a day off at all. And like, even right now, I'm working like a 4 in between two 18.5-hour shifts. I'm like, what the heck's going on? And I said to him, I said, I'm driving like 79 miles to work, you know, like 69, 70 miles to work every day. And I'm like, you know, this is a really bad shift, you know. And he says, oh, are you working that substation out there in Thousand Palms? And I was like, yeah, you know. And he's like, oh, dude, my brother worked that, and he said that place is haunted. He's never going back. Yeah, and I was like, what? So he says it's haunted. He's all, yeah, you know, man, like, he's seeing a bunch of weird stuff out here. He's never going back to that place. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, and he's like, you know what, like, a lot of people went out there and nobody in the company will go near that place. I was like, no, nobody in the company. I was like, well, so, like, how'd they get out of, like, going to it? What'd they do? And he says, oh, they just went into the supervisors and told them, like, the place was haunted and they weren't going back. And see what I'm saying here? I'm like, that was an option? You know what I mean? That's why it was so awful. I was like, I had no idea that I could just go in and be like, the place is haunted. I'm not going back. I'm a security officer, you know, like, I can't go to anywhere scary. So I was like totally shocked. I didn't know that you could do that, right? And that whole time, that's why I had to work all those stupid hours, and I had to be the night person every single flippin' night. And as soon as the sun went down, I had to be there. When it came up, I got to leave. And when it went down, I had to be there. And I had to drive clear the flip out there. And the reason why is because nobody else would go near that site. So now you can see what I'm saying, right? I was like, I really realized I was the chump that wouldn't complain. That, you know, I'm seeing all these crazy ghosts coming at me all night long. I was seeing, like, you know, the two dog or whatever coming at me. I don't know, you know. I'm like not saying anything. So that's why I had to put up with that stuff, right? Now, I'll tell you something really creepy that, like, didn't occur to me for years, right? Like, I really didn't understand, like, the two dog thing, whatever was going on, right? basically like, right, there was a black lab, and then there was a white Dalmatian, and they come together, and they would freak me out all the time, right? And then one day there was a big dog that was, the front half was the Dalmatian and the back half was the Labrador, and it was like they had smushed together into one dog monster. And I started to realize, you know what, like, not only was that thing a ghost dog or not real or something, but like probably none of those dogs were real. There probably was never a dog ever out there. And that really freaked me out. Now I'll tell you something that will really freak you out, right? You think it's already bad, right? Like, you don't know the half of it, right? The night that I saw that guy, that ghost guy with the, you know, remember he had the white hoodie and he had the blue jeans and stuff like that. A few things. One, when he got up real close, there wasn't anybody inside the clothing. There was no face in there. I mean, there was just nothing. It was like air was inside of there. But he walked totally like a human. It was just like, it was a person, right? So I don't know what that means. But there was like somebody invisible inside there, right? Now, another thing that's really creepy, I'll tell you like the little creepy thing before I tell you the really creepy thing, is another time when this lady was coming out to relieve me during the day. You know, I think she was there for like just like an hour of the night or something. And something like she was going to relieve me or I was relieving her or something. And anyways, like she was sitting there blabbing and blabbing and blabbing. She could really talk. She was a fun person though, but she could go on and on and on. You just couldn't stop her, right? And I seen on the other side of the tree line, like across the driveway, this guy walked across there, and he turned and he glared at me. And this time he had a face, but he glared at me, but he was wearing the exact same clothes. And then he kept walking, and I was like, hey, look. But she was like, you know, so I was like, she didn't see it. And then she was like, oh, you're trying to freak me out with your ghost guy again, huh? And blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, whatever, you know, believe what you want. So, but okay, here's the super creepy thing, right? Like, the night that I saw that guy come up to a car and then disappear, in the morning, because I was just pacing around by the gate and like I was really stressed out and freaked out and stuff, and had the gate open all night, like was ready to just get the heck out of there if I had to. In the morning the sun came up and I was waiting for this lady to come. I just wanted to go home, and I decided to go walk around in the tree line, right, which was kind of like, it was a good wide area. And I'm walking along there, and I see like a fire ring, right? You know, like the rocks in a circle. And, you know, like also a bunch of rusty food cans that had been opened, like around the fire ring. The other thing I saw was some blue jeans, some white tennis shoes, and a white hoodie, like laying out there in the dirt around this fire pit. And those clothes were like, you know, half buried in leaves and dirt and stuff like that, and they looked like they had been there a long time. See what I'm saying? Right? I didn't know those were there. And like, so, and that's exactly, it's as if the guy was at that little campfire place, and then he walked straight through the fence and was walking directly to me. And so where he had been walking from led me directly to where his clothes were at, you know. And I don't know, that's like some kind of, I don't know, what is that, a message or something, or trying to tell me something, I guess, right? If you have an idea, like, comment below, like, what does that mean? And what the heck does a two ghost dog mush together thing, what the heck is that? You know, like, I don't know. If you got some answers as to what the heck was going on out there, I don't know, you know. But go ahead and, like, you know, put something and say what you think. What do you think went on? I don't know. So anyways, eventually they weren't paying the driving mileage, which, okay, that's weird right there. That's why I quit, because of the money. They weren't paying the driving mileage that they were supposed to pay, and it kept adding up and adding up. And I had to sue this company, which was Stupid Whackin' Hut. I had to sue them for $5,000, and I got my money, and then I just spent the money, and I didn't work for a year, which was actually really good. So, alright, so everybody, I hope you're having a really safe coronavirus pandemic or whatever, you know, like, be safe out there. Binge a lot of Netflix and YouTube or whatever you're doing, and stay safe. Wear your mask like everybody's doing now. And if you like hearing all this paranormal stuff, or going with me on some paranormal adventures and doing some ghost hunting and stuff, then, you know, like, share, and subscribe.